Hey, what's up guys? You are here with Alex, and in this tutorial I wanted to show you guys a tone breakdown. So essentially we've actually had a lot of requests for gear and how we get our tones, especially on our Twitch channel. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and go to twitch.tv/shred talk and you'll see where all these tones come from. So everyone this year, I would say they've probably discovered like the um, neural DSP stuff, computer based software. So if you have like a Focusrite interface or anything like that to connect your guitar directly to your computer, regardless if it's a PC or a Mac, you're able to essentially get some pretty sweet tones out of your computer without using an actual physical amp anymore, which is pretty groundbreaking now by today's standards. So, what we're going to do today is essentially apply the same principles of guitar tone with what I have here, which is our my Axe-Fx. I'm speaking as if it's mine and Conan's, but it's my Axe-Fx. It's mine. So let's go over to the Axe-Fx 3. Essentially, what you see here is what they call the grid. Now, think of it as a digital version of what you have as far as real pedals, real amplifiers, and real cabinets. And necessarily, it's not really like a uh, combo amp that you see right there. What it is basically the amp head and the cabinets. Combos is essentially all-in-one solution that you usually see in guitar stores. You'll see like the Marshall, 50-watt DSL or something like that, or the EVH, either the 50-watt head or the EVH 112 or the 212. The numbers basically referring to the amount of speakers and the size of the cone. 112 means one 12-inch speaker cone. 2 by 12 means two individual 12-inch cones side to side. And of course, 412 for half stack and so forth. So, what you see here is essentially what's coming through from my guitar into the front of the amp. And then in the back here is essentially like the effects loop, if you were to kind of visualize it in interesting digital way. So, what I'm going to do here is just get a general high gain sound that we would like for rhythm or even for lead. Now, the Mesa Boogie amps that I primarily use have a really different kind of technique to recording and playing through as far as a general amplifier concern. It doesn't really work out like how you would set up like a Marshall or an EVH or any other high gain amp. So what I'm going to do here is, as you can see, there's various amounts of amps to choose from for the Axe-Fx. I'm going to go with something like the 5150 Blue Channel, the 50 watt. Now, to show you guys, especially if you are working with these new plugins, if you were just to play just the amp, if you were to download it, because they do have free plugins available, it would sound like this. Pretty dry and pretty terrible. So what we're going to do is add in an additional cabinet right behind it, okay? So this is basically combining the cabinet per se with the amplifier head in digital real life. So what I have here, I have a couple Mesa Boogies, some Bogners, and some other crazy ones. Let's go with one that I have here. This is USA 412 Mesa Boogie, and it's going through a 421 microphone. So that's the one thing that you will have to understand between like the amplifiers in the digital realm and the real world is the digital stuff is basically recreating what you're going to get as far as a real amp being mic'd through whatever it is to get the signal. So if Metallica used a Shure SM57 through a Mesa Boogie full stack, you're going to find a preset for a 57 microphone with the Mesa Boogie or Marshall or whatever it may be that they use to record that particular cabinet into the digital realm, which is why it's kind of hard to get the perfect, what they call an amp in the room sound with digital. But you can get kind of close depending on the kind of speakers you have, how loud you crank it, and the general experimentation of working with different cabinets. So this one here, it's just going to give you just the ballpark of what we can work with, okay? So as you can see, once I added that in, now we actually have some sound. Now it's defaulted all the way basically at 12 o'clock. The gain is pretty much maxed out. The blue channel on the real 5150 isn't really like a high gain channel, but it's got good crunch rhythm, right? You can get harmonics out and everything too. So what I like to do is generally understand what the amp's doing. 12 o'clock is very ideal. I can boost up the master a little bit. I'm thinking like, as far as drill tube amps, if you boost up the volume, it's going to sound more saturated. You can see the volume went up, and the gain went up a little bit too. So we're going to go ahead and continue on. Now, we'll add a little bit more bite since this is a rhythm channel. And you notice I'm playing big chords, and what I like to do is I always vary my tone based on the clarity of the tone. So if I can hear everything and it sounds good, I'm going in the right direction. And in this particular episode, I'm basically going through like bedroom sounds, something that I'm going to enjoy playing, not in the band context, but just in the room, practicing and noodling. There is a different way to EQing for recording, and then also for the live mixing. But right now, we'll focus primarily on just having an awesome balls off rhythm sound. So let's see if we drag the bass a little bit more. You get that kind of rumble, right? So depending on your personal preference, I like to have more of a low response attack that is very fast. So it's almost like a sledgehammer, like you get that kind of thunk. So that's a little too much. A little bit better. The mid-range, adjust to taste. So for to go maxed out, not the greatest, right? Because it's sounding a little too boxy. Scoop it just a little bit. Sounds a little too scoop, but I mean not too bad. And I basically try to play the same thing over and over just to get an idea of what I'm changing. So with this, you could also run a looper. So something's playing as you're tweaking, or you can just basically do this. We're going to go ahead and move on. Sounds pretty good. Now, if you want a little bit of extra gain, what you can do is add an overdrive. It's going to be, let's see, right here. Okay. Essentially just like a traditional tube screamer, which is going to be like something like a TS9 or an 808. So we have an 808 overdrive here. What you primarily do is just basically drop the drive, tone in the middle, and then just max out everything else, and you'll get this. And what it's doing is it's basically sending signal through the front of the amp and overdriving it, which is where it gets its name. It's overdriving the circuitry so it can produce more natural harmonics, and it's also going to have like a mid-range boost, and it's going to cut a little bit at the low end. So if I go back, bypass it. So like, let's say if you don't want a lot of that mid-range and you want more of the low end, you just go back to the amp and you just bring it back, right? Bring in more of that low end. And what you can generally do is play a couple harmonics, see. To see if it gives you just enough distortion to create those overtones. So you hear a little bit of hiss, right? So to get rid of that, you essentially go and create a noise gate. This one actually has something built in here. So if I boost up the noise gate, now you see a lot of it has disappeared. The release is basically how fast the noise gate reacts. So if I want to no release at all, you're going to get that kind of like genty pa-kank. But then when you sustain, it's going to start to suffer, as you can see. It cuts it off really fast because it wants to activate it immediately. So if you like that sound, go ahead. I'm going to keep it a little bit more of like in the middle, so I can get the nice sustain. The only problem now, though, is when you go ahead and do like mid gain stuff, you lose a lot of the dynamics that you get when you roll out the volume because of that noise gate. If we were to completely knock it off, pretty much, let me see here, right there. So now you can hear it. Really roll off. And I can bring it in. Now you get that noise, right? So it's a balance. Not one sound's gonna work for everything. So that's generally what you would do for a rhythm tone that's pretty decent, nothing super crazy. If you want anything a little bit more tighter, more clarity, less gain. Now you have open chords, especially if that's your kind of thing. And I can still get those harmonics pretty well, even with the gain at that level. Now, if you were to add a delay for lead playing, just a standard delay, anything at 500 milliseconds is going to be great for you. Anywhere from a quarter to even half, and you'll start to get that kind of like lead sound. And the reason why you're not hearing it is because I have it off. Here you go. Now, for me, it's a little harsh sounding. I like more of a smoother lead sound, so I would probably bring down the presence, even back up the treble, and boost up the mids a little bit because it's a mid-range instrument. And with the lead tone, you can boost the drive to get more sustain, mainly because you're not doing a lot of like big clusters of notes. You're playing lead passaging, or passages. And there you have it. So right there, it's a decent lead tone. If I wanted to go further into the tone rabbit hole, I can even change cabinets. So like I said, this is a decent cabinet that I do like. Let's see what happens if I don't change the tone, but change the cabinet, how significant the tone's gonna change. So just a little bit for your ear refreshing. Change another cab. Change another cab. Let's go even further, something completely different as far as mics and stuff. See? Every cab's gonna have a different characteristic, and especially if they're using a different mic. So there you have it. See, let's go all the way down to something else. Something else to kind of. So a Royer 129 or the 121. But you see, even without choosing something out of the tone in the preamp, just choosing a different speaker makes it sound completely different. So half of the tone, I would say, comes from the cab, and then the other half comes from the actual amplifier. Pickups and everything play a small variance, but not to the point where I can hear a total winner and a total loser. So this is just the way I go around with settings. I would say mess around. Hopefully you find this very intuitive. If you want me to go through any more clean sounds and more tones in the next videos coming up, let me know and let me notify me if you want to see more of the Mesa Boogie stuff or any other amplifiers in the Axe-Fx. Just give me a personal message on Patreon here, or even on my Instagram at Ibanezguy88 if you aren't following me, or Bugstrike Talk, and then one of us will find the message there. Okay, so I hope you guys have found this very, very informative, very long, but a lot of fun. All right, guys, have a good one. Take care and shred on.